Okay, we are officially live here at On the Cusp, the nudge you've been dying for, with Marco Renna. So, as usual, I like to provide some context to the intention of what this show. We are fascinated with the human condition, and it's real talk with real people. I am blessed to have had really great relationships along the way, and that's what I'm trying to pull back in with some people who have had an impact in my life. So, it's a reductionism. I love that word. I learned that from an author recently. The word reductionism is breaking things down into their smaller parts, right? The human condition, picking them apart and looking at why we trip over ourselves, why we make a straight line crooked, why we self-sabotage and just can't get there. We just don't get there, right? So there's things like insecurities and fears and all those other good things, the classics that get in the way of us achieving that best version of ourselves, which we start with in our mind's eye at a very young age, but then life takes hold and life is heavy labor. And so outside of these classics that end up really paralyzing us, like I like to say, is oftentimes we don't know how. And that's really more the focus of this show, is really taking an unabashed look, an honest look, a candid look, because honesty, I think, is the growth for honesty is the catalyst for growth. And when we provide people with tools or epiphanies, then they go, oh, other people out there have been challenged with these things, and they were able to find some necessary tools, and that it in turn inspires them and then motivates them to maybe take some action. So with all that being said, how do I know Mr. Marco Renna? So I think this goes back. It does go back 12 years, Marco, because I moved from Ottawa.
Yeah.
Left everything. This is going to tie in. I'm going to layer here. I'm layering everything that I've built in my business, in my career, my profession, and came out here and started anew. And I opened up a 40,000 square foot club in the Burnaby area and got to meet some new people. And one of them was Marco Renna, who became a fast friend and a client. And I think that's where I learned there was such thing as a quad shot Americano.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, you can do all of the protein drinks you want in the world, but it's better to show up to your personal trainer with 4 shots of espresso coursing through your veins, because you can do burpees till you puke. And
pretty much. So prior to meeting Marco, I never knew there was such thing. I'm a Starbucks fan, and I never knew there was such thing as a quad shot. So he was always kind to shoot me a text before a session and say, hey, I'm at Starbucks, do you want anything? I said, yeah, I'll take a grande Americano. So he took care of me. He did me good. He gave me a quad shot, and I think we were both peaked for that first session. Probably pretty jittery, but
well, I mean, maybe you were jittery, dude. I was that's kind of that's the AED for my brain, is just getting the defibrillator of caffeine in the old skull.
Yeah, absolutely. So I still, to this day, on occasion, depending on how early I start with a quad shot. So that being said, we got along pretty good, pretty quickly. One of the things I want to touch on is your sense of humor. We were very aligned that way. A little on the dark side, which is what I appreciate. Another gentleman who believes in being able to laugh at yourself, which is another quality that I look in friends. So when you shot me over the things you wanted to talk about and share with our audience today, I was like, oh, damn. I'm like, those are biggies. Those are things that I'm certainly strongly connected to based on my own personal experiences. And I was genuinely looking forward to, taking a deep dive into this. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to the audience, Mr. Marco Renna. So Marco, we have a bunch of themes, but it's up to you. This is what we do here on the Cusp. You freestyle. Introduce yourself.
For sure. So, I mean, like you said, I came into the club a skinny, out of shape, 40-something, almost 40-something, new dad, smoker, just generally not a healthy guy. and you know, I got paired up with you, and I think it was a case of you met me, and it was an interview of let's see if we can actually work together, because it's you know, I'd only had one personal excuse me, I'd only had one personal trainer in my life. And it's like a relationship with anybody, you know. It's a very personal, private relationship, you know, that you have to gel with that person, or you're not going to have any kind of success. And it was, you know, what I valued about the months that we spent together, sweating and pushing me to go beyond what I felt my limits were, was a trust. Like, I gained a trust in you that I had a very hard time finding with people, right? I trusted you with my physical health, my emotional health, my mental health. You know, I talked to you about things that you know, I just didn't generally make public knowledge, because you know, you needed to understand where I was at mentally, so you could understand how far you could push me physically. And it was a fantastic, it was the best experience I could have possibly hoped to have, and I was tickled that I actually got to that I gained a good friend out of it, you know. So, and then, you know, we find ourselves here. I guess popcorn was like 2, so it was you know, my daughter was a little muppet running around and just being being her bad self, you know, and setting the world on fire with her awesomeness. And you know, I mean, it was great, man. Like, it was, I really, you know, I followed you closely over the years to you know, try and keep in touch, even if it's from the periphery, and you know, do that. Introduce myself, dude. I'm probably one of the most. I tell people I'm one of the most boring people you'll ever meet, with some great fucking stories. You know, I am who I am. I've had a very strange life. Um, I finally have gotten to the point where I've achieved the one and only thing that I ever wanted out of my life. And I was telling my daughter this story the other day, where in grade 10, I was 15, and the teacher, I was at a Catholic high school too. The teacher was going around person to person to person and saying, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be? What's your focus? What's your goal? What's your this? And she gets to me and she said, you know, Marco, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, husband and a father. And she said, well, you know, but I mean, what do you want to be professionally? And I said, look, and I said, I can pretty much do whatever I want, right? Like, I mean, a job is a job is a job is a job, right? You know, a job is a job is a job. But the only thing that I want to truly be successful at is being a good husband, and being a good father. Everything else is inconsequential at that point, you know. And I mean, my history in growing up and being a child of divorce and all of those things, you know, you see how not to do things, and you know, in hopes that you can break the cycle when you get older and do things differently and break that chain, right? So that's sort of, you know, that was my thing. Like, I just wanted to. It's easy doing things exactly the same way, just like my dad did and his dad did, and generations before. But you know,
Just throwing up comments, you know.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of those things where I wanted to break the chain that I had, the chain of my experience, and just be better. That's it.
Be better. I like that. And just to insert myself there, Marco, first of all, thank you for really propping up what these shows are about. You don't know where you rate until you hear somebody tell you to your face about the impact you had in their lives. And I appreciate that front end piece. I worked with a lot of people, and the thing that I always strive to do is to to gain that trust, and you can't do that by being disingenuous. And it only works if the other side is just as genuine too as well. So, thank you for that. And you touched on a couple of things there about breaking patterns. I think this is going to be a great show for layering some of these themes, and it's all very, very, very relevant. And the first thing you jotted down for me is talking about your professional evolution over 25 years. Such things as web developer, hairstylist, entrepreneur, inventor. I know some about that because you shared that with me. Corporate communication in film industry. So maybe we can peel that onion a little bit for the audience.
For sure, man. Like I've just kind of a jack of all trades, and it was reinvention due to necessity in my professional life, and my personal life too, I guess. But primarily on the theme of professional life. When I was in high school, my focus professionally, I'd left the Catholic high school and I'd gone to a public high school, and I got into the arts program. And I was dancing, I was acting, I was singing, I was doing musical theater, I was doing all of that, and we were able to go down to New York and do classes at the Alvin Ailey School of Dance, at the American Dance Machine, at the American Ballet Theater. You could do walk-in classes. Like back in the 80s, man, it was like $6 or $7, and you walk in and you sweat it out with the pros for 2 or 3 hours, and get an idea of what your career or your aspirations look like moving into the future. So that was it. I was just like, oh, no, I'm going to be the next big Broadway star, and then I'm going to be this, and I'm going to be that, I'm going to be the other thing. And then I had an accident in my senior year, and just butchered my knee. So career's done, finished. So I hit the panic button. Now, like, what do I do? Hindsight being 2020, I should have continued, but is what it is. And I went to South America. I spent a long time finding myself in the jungle, and then came back. And one of the things I was doing down there with the organization I was working with was taking photographs, and I was like, I love this. So I took out a big fat student loan, and I went to Fanshawe College, and I studied commercial photography and digital imaging, and then came back to Ottawa. And guess what? There's not a really big commercial photography industry for like arts and fashion. And so I was an ambulance chaser. I was an ambulance chaser for a while. And would jump in the car and go photograph protests and photograph accidents and fires, and try and sell the photos to the local newspapers. And that was, I pulled up on an accident that happened right in front of me. So I was and it was carnage. Like this lady flipped her BMW several times, like it just, and I pulled up on this thing as literally one of the first responders. And there was other cars that had pulled up and stopped, and you could hear the sirens way the hell off in the distance. And her little guy got out of the car. She was still in the passenger seat. There was a dog. I remember a dog running up and down the Queensway. And I had all my camera gear, and I'm like, I'm going to be the first one here. Like, dude, this is exclusive. Like, I'm going to sell this for, like, look at this. Oh, it looks like post-apocalyptic, fantastic. And her little guy was crying in the back seat. Somebody had gotten him out of the back seat, and he just like calling for his mom. And I immediately went into caretaker versus photojournalist. And long story short, she didn't make it. I found out in the news that night. I had been telling the kid that his mom was going to be okay the whole time. I had nightmares for weeks about this kid being really angry with me, and that was it. That was the end of my photography career.
Wow.
I'm like, I can't do this. I wanted a Pulitzer Prize, but I can't do it. So then I went to school and studied web design. And then I did some work with the federal government and small companies as a web developer, programmer, coder. Nortel imploded.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nortel imploded. 11,000 people all out of work almost overnight. So all of the people that were secure in their long-term positions were now suddenly looking for work and willing to take whatever to pay their mortgages. I started having struggles finding work, and I mean, I was getting paid out the wazoo. Out the wazoo. Yeah, I know. Hey, Roger. So I mean, I was getting paid out the wazoo to sit there and write HTML code for people or JavaScript or whatever. Like it was such a new industry at the time in the 90s that you could literally walk in and go, I want $100 an hour. And they're like, we're going to give you 115. It was stupid.
Yeah.
Then Nortel happened, and that was sort of the end of it. Like and I had to figure out, well, how am I going to pay my bills? Enter hairstyling. My best friend Lisa.
I was waiting.
Yeah, my best friend Lisa was just like, well, I mean, you are what is termed as metrosexual. You are like half a chromosome shy from being everybody's best gay boyfriend. So, like women don't find you creepy and you're a gentleman. So you should go get your hair license. And I was like, all right, whew, get my hair license. That means I can still party. Like half the people you work with are jacked every morning when they show up to work. And I see them out at the clubs all the time. So like, yeah, for sure. So we'll do that. So I got my hair license. Yeah, dude, you know what? I didn't go to barber school. I did this vocational school that the city paid for. Best gay husband. I did this vocational school, and then I studied at Sassoon, and I got my fundamentals at Sassoon, which qualified me to work at nice places rather than like first choice haircutters. So I started making some money, building up a client list. The other advantage was because of the federal government work that I did, I also had security clearance with the Fed. So I was able to work with VIPs from the federal government and get all of the dirt in. And I mean, I'm a huge guy into politics as well, so I was getting all of the dirt with what was going on behind the scenes and just adding to, friends that I still had that were working with the Fed. So it was kind of funny cutting people's hair at some places with the RCMP security detail standing next to me. It was that was hilarious. But yeah, I mean, I was the only hairstylist in Ottawa with security clearance. Imagine that. And then I moved to Vancouver in 2006. I was DJing, and I know you wanted me to touch on being a DJ, but that was a very odd period of time in my life. It's something that I love to do.
Creative.
Very creative. Fed a little bit into an ego that I desperately needed nurtured. And I enjoyed making people dance and everything like that. And living for 2 hours thinking that I was the coolest guy in the room.
And you were.
I like to think so. Yeah, I mean, there was a tradition in Ottawa where you would DJ your birthday party. If there was something happening the night, and I mean, at that time there was a club night every single night in Ottawa, and my bank account showed it. But that'll be into topic 2. Yeah, I was DJing at my birthday party, and my best friend had moved to Vancouver. The wonderful human that got me into hairstyling. I was feeling very alone. I had like 250, 300 people that were all dancing on the dance floor, buying me drinks I don't drink. And I had an epiphany. I looked around and I went, I've lived in this city for 28 years, and it's my 35th birthday, and I mean, I've got acquaintances here. These are all people I know. Um, but I don't have that friend. You know, there's nobody here. Like there were people in that room that had monumentous um, life milestones, getting married, having a child, et cetera, and I was never invited to those. Quite possibly for good reason, but I didn't do myself any favors. But I mean, I'm looking around at just a pile of people, and there wasn't that friend, that you know, the couple of people that were your touchstone, that were your stability, that were your support in that room. And I'd gone through some pretty dark times, so I just went, fuck it. Excuse my English, but I'm going to get as far away from this as I possibly can. So I moved to Vancouver. Yeah.
And you know, as I listen to you talk, there's so many similarities.
Yeah. That's why we got along.
And for the viewing audience, I'm an Ottawa boy too. So when he speaks of Ottawa, I know exactly where that is. If we're talking about Lafayette, we'll both go, oh yeah.
Oh, the laugh. I grew up on the front stairs of the laugh a couple of times.
And you struck a chord for me, Marco, because the part about friends, and that was the hardest adjustment for me moving from Ottawa to here, is you said it. I know a lot of people. I have a lot of acquaintances. I'm the most antisocial social guy you'll meet, because I like to retreat to my cave when it's all said and done. You know, I put it out there. Great, but when I'm done, I'm done. I eject myself and I'm done. So I never really found here in Vancouver the same, you know, visceral connections and friendships that I had back home in Ottawa. And I think maybe because of some formative years there. There's some stuff that you go through, like high school, and then you have your college, and you get those experiences and those moments, and you have friends that can fill in the B's and C's to get from A to D of what's going on with you.
Yeah.
What's going on with you, right?
Yeah.
So that played on my mental health moving out here in the first while, and having to figure that out. I'm like, how do I get the same thing, right? And I still haven't achieved that. So I really appreciated you bringing up that very important point. So you have your different careers. It's quite broad. I mean, listening to, say, a resume of sorts, and I'm sure there's other stuff in there. Mine's pretty long too. Like you, I have varied interests. Back to, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? I remember a guidance counselor saying to me, "Hey, Steph, let's figure out what you want to be." I think it was a bus driver. Was one of the came up from one of the quizzes. Can you see me as a bus driver? Yeah. It'd be a gong show anyway, but I couldn't figure it out. I thought there was something wrong with me, because I had a friend in grade 10, Gordy. I don't say last name. So Gordy, he knew he wanted to be a dentist. Guess what?
He ended up being the front man for the Tragically Hip.
Right, exactly.
That's awesome, dude.
Right? You never know. But he ended up being a dentist. So for a long time in my life, I was meandering, and there's reasons for that. So to kind of cap that theme off and moving on to the next one is, could you say for the audience, maybe one or two things that you learned from dipping your toe in various professional pools?
Don't work for a paycheck. Honestly, I was raised with success as money. You know, when you're making said dollar amounts, you're successful. When you've got this kind of car, you're successful. When you own a house, you're successful. I've worked in several soul-destroying careers. You know, communications. Holy shit! Being a spin doctor is terrible. You are writing. You are writing to sell things to people, whether it's ideas or products that they don't want, don't need, and you're always making a silk purse out of a sow's ear. And it, you know, at the end of the day, you go home and just go, oh, you know, there are, you know, do what, you know, forget it. It's people say this, and it's kind of funny because I mean I see all of these memes and crap like this that pop up on Facebook and in social media, and you know, do what you love and success will follow and blah 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 blah. And you look at the people that are posting this and they're successful, and then they've got money and they get their month vacation every single year, and they've got, you know, so it's easy for you to say that. When I am, you know, struggling to get my bills paid at the end of the month, you know, I would love to do what I love, but I've also got to do what's going to pay me. You know, that's going to put money in the bank so I can fulfill my obligations. But I mean, at the end of the day, there is some truth to that. It's, you know what, it's on my mind. Let's see if I can get that to not reflect.
Yeah,
Do what you love what you do.
100%.
Right. I bought that on BC Ferries, by the way. So it's from a company. I don't know if they're Canadian or not, but it's from a company called Life is Good, and they've got all of these. You know, they've got great stuff going on, and it's a good story about a couple of brothers. And you know, like much like online dating, I read the profiles, so I want to find out who I'm supporting it before I buy anything. But do what you love what you do is something that really kind of stuck with me, because I'm like, you know, you can love to do anything, right? You can love to do anything. I work in film right now. I work as a PA. My hours are anywhere between 15 and 17 hours a day. I'm carrying 80-pound tents on my back. Thanks, Steph, for making that possible. I'm standing in the rain. I eat all of my food standing up out of a cardboard box that's disintegrating in the downpours that we have in Vancouver. You, as a PA, you're the lowest form of life on the food chain. You get treated like shit. Nobody wants to listen to you, but you're in charge of everything on set. Nothing happens without the locations team.
Right.
Right. But you're also the least regarded member of the crew on set. And it's challenging. Right. So, you know, do I love what I do? No, I don't particularly like the work, but is it the work or is it the environment? And I think I don't mind the work. I'm not afraid of physical labor. I'm not afraid of doing any of that, and I enjoy the social aspect of it. I love being on film sets. I really like all of that, but the lack of respect for the job that the teams that I work for do is something that really impacts it. So. Do what I love what I do. I love being on film sets. So I am going to find a way to love what it is that I am doing on a film set today. I'm going to find a way to appreciate being in the rain, because I'm not sitting in an office with some jackass with a master's degree behind me going, your productivity is down 0.014%. You know, that's going to go on your review in 2 months. And it's just like, buddy, you've played 4 rounds of golf this week. How would you know that I even made it to the office? Cool.
This show is all about you, but man, you're ringing so many bells. I got so many stories, but yeah. What I like that you're saying is, and I've gone through the same thing, and I fight to find that happiness. And I think there's a reason why I like to be so creative. There's a reason why I have, that I reached, out and developed FIA and rebranded Hive Strong. Yeah, and now this is actually probably the thing that I'm most passionate about, because it's just life's work and beliefs and passion in a nutshell. But it's finding your anchor, your anchor within an environment. You said it best, right? It's like, is it the work? Is it the environment? Even what I'm currently doing, it's fun, it's great, but it's got, still the same challenges that you're talking about around, respect and everything else. Is finding that anchor so that you can cope as best as you can to get through.
Well, and I mean, in my current iteration of Marco, My anchor is the end game, right? For the first time in my professional life, I went into something not expecting to be a success right away, but knowing that there was a process to get there, right? So I went in with a plan. Now, in the film industry, that irritates the shit out of people. Okay.
Why is that?
Hey,
Why does that irritate people?
because the people that are the people that hire PAs, they basically want, well, not all of them. So I'm gonna, before I slit my professional throat there, not all of them, but there are people in this industry that want to compartmentalize you and keep you in a box, right? You are the guy that I am going to put out on the street at 3:30 in the morning in East Vancouver, and you're going to be the guy that keeps the needles and the crackheads away from the stars of the show. Now, only call me on the radio when things are going completely shit sideways. In the meantime, shut up and stand over there. We'll send somebody over to check on you in a couple of hours, right? And when you have a plan, like I'm a very good networker. Like you're a very good networker. I'm a very good networker. My plan was I get onto a film set and I start meeting the people who are going to provide me with the opportunities tomorrow. So I'm going to network. I'm going to network. Within a week of being on a show, everybody knows my name. From the stars of the show to the executive producers to the directors, everybody knows who Marco is. Marco gets a hello every single morning. I get hellos from people that don't even acknowledge the main crew on set because I'm fucking Marco.
Yep.
Right?
No surprise there, my friend.
So that irritates the crap out of the people that are just, and it's kind of like a corporate thing, right? You've got the cogs at the bottom, the middle management, and then their bosses, and then the big bosses up top, right? So the middle management guys, there are a few in this city that can't stand me. Why? Because their bosses continually tell them how great I am and that I should be treated like gold.
Right.
Well, that doesn't work for their career aspirations, which is keep a team of garbage people around and make sure that they always look good. It's super short-sighted on their part.
Yeah, it's a compliment what you just said, and I've had my share of those experiences, and I don't do. I'm a black man. I don't do well. I'll challenge the status quo all day long. You know what? Sorry, not in my DNA to kiss ass. It just never has been, right? I'm about doing the right thing. So, when you talk about people wanted to keep you down, right? Keep you down, tear you down, and not help prop you up. And I came up with my own quote, about a year ago. I said, companies are looking for top performers. We need some top performers in our company. But in no way, Marco, do they want you to perform at the top.
Yeah.
To turn into insulate yourself because you're insecure. You don't want somebody gunning for your job. So we want you to be a great producer, but produce only the things that we put in front of you. Here's your little box, Marco. We're going to shove you in it and stay in it. We don't want you thinking outside that box because then
100%
on the horizon. We don't want you to do that because you're going to scare the shit out of us. So that really, echoes with me. So to move into another thing that you want to talk, so work-life balance, after all this work talk and everything that, we share and the challenges around working with people.
Yeah, working with people. People are good.
So, right. Do you think work-life balance is achievable? Is it even achievable, Marco?
So marketing, I'm gonna take off the glasses and I'm gonna give you the marketing and communications guy look. Work-life balance is how we sell t-shirts that say work-life balance. Work-life balance is what you make it, right? Work-life balance is what you make it. And it's achievable in a sense. You can achieve work-life balance, but you've got to maximize the life part for when you've got time away from work.
Well said.
And I mean, I'm just as guilty of this as everybody else is. When you get home from work, put that away.
Oh shit! Amen.
Stick it in a drawer. Stop looking at it. I'm bad at this, right? Because communication in the film industry is between your superiors and the rest of your team is all very much done. Hey, listen, I lost a headline. Can you find that? Hey, listen, where did you put such and such a thing? I've got to make sure that it's dog-eared for tomorrow, and da 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 da. Right? So there's this constant communication flow that's happening when you're not on the clock. So the idea is that when you're at home, though, be at home, be present with your spouse or your partner or your children or your animals, or just be present in your own head that you can. And I'm quoting another like matcha latte yoga mom term of be present. Everybody be present. Okay, Chardonnay, Sherry, everybody's present. So at the end of the day, being present, living in the moment, and looking not to tomorrow, but looking at right now for your own sanity, right?
Yeah.
In my job, I've got to be thinking 2 steps ahead of everybody around me. Because I have to anticipate what the producers are going to need and what the director wants and what the the actors are doing a big stunt scene with lots of smoke and everything like that. I better run to our truck and grab a giant flat of water bottles and run them in and have them really close at hand, because they're going to come off set and be eating that propylene glycol smoke that we make and like all of that, and just be like, oh my God, I need some water. Is there any water? It's right there. Right? So in my job, I've always got to be 2 or 3 steps ahead. When I come home, I don't see my wife for 72, 80 hours a week.
Mm.
And in some extreme circumstances, there's been 102 hours on my paycheck for a week. That's a lot of freaking time away for a week. 102 hours in a week.
Yeah.
5-day period. That's a lot of time away from your family. So when I come home, I will download work. But then once work is downloaded, I don't want to talk about it anymore. I want to talk about, what did you do this week? How was school this week? What's going on here? What's going on there? Fill me in on what I am missing out on as a father and as your partner, and be present. So that's how I achieve work-life balance. That's a big, long, convoluted story for how I achieve work-life balance.
And you know what? They're great tangents. There's a lot of nuggets to be pulled out of that. And you touched on probably my next question to you is, there are adages and cliches, right, on paper, or Chardonnay sherry, as you say, your little quotes that you see. And that's why I always love people who recycle memes, right? They share memes.
Yep.
And it's something that connects with them. But I always challenge that person who recycled that. Do you embody that in your life? Do you take those tools and really apply it to yourself, right? So it's like finding that bliss point for me. The pendulum always swings one way real hard, right? And then when it comes back real hard and just kicks you right in the ass. And you're on that pendulum almost like Miley Cyrus on a wrecking ball.
100 ball.
You're striving to do this. You're striving to get that pendulum somewhat to be here. Now, okay, this is just me. Sometimes you need to be way over here and get business done, like you said, right? The paycheck part, that's the thing that you're married to, your work outside of what you have in your personal life. But you touched on it because it's easier said than done. Now, you said you did this. Oh man, like don't get me started on that. That's the devil right there. That's the devil right there for most relationships and people connecting and staying connecting. And you talked about really untethering from that and unplugging, and then being inward with your family and asking them about their lives. Like, what other recommendations do you have for people who struggle with that huge pendulum swing and they can't find quite that balance?
It's difficult, and this will touch on the next themes as we go forward. So maybe this is a great segue into the the next topics in the conversation.
It's your show. You run it. Where do you want to go? It's your show.
It's my show. Well, thank God I wore pants. So it's, you know, it is striking the balance. Striking that balance is really hard because it's every single. I don't think that I can appropriately give a concise answer in that, because everybody's balance is going to be different. It's all very individual, and it all kind of depends on who you are and where you are at that point in your week, in your month, in your life, in that day. You know, you touched on something about struggling to find direction, struggling to find your niche, struggling to find your thing. I struggled with that my whole life, and it's funny. I make the joke. I'm like, I'm 50 years old, and I finally know what I want to do with my life. Right? My things, yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right, Roger? It's everybody has to sort of achieve that in a different way. But again, you know, winding back to what I was just about to say is, if you're not mentally stable in that pendulum, then it's going to be very hard to be professionally or personally stable in your life, right? I was very, very, very fortunate. I was very fortunate. In my 30s, I had a complete breakdown in Ottawa. And the medical system in Ontario is very different than the medical system here in BC, as anybody who has kind of gone back and forth has known. But I went through a thing where I was involved with a company. Company got sued. I was I was one of the directors. So by default of being one of the directors, if one director leaves and another director circles the wagons and protects themselves, that leaves you holding the bag on any kind of potential suits. So we got sued, and I had multiple entities coming after the company, but I was the face of the company coming after. I was very fortunate in the way that it worked out. I had my name taken off the lawsuit because none of it was my fault. It was squarely on the shoulders of the jackass that was pocketing cash. And when I finally got that phone call that says, "Don't worry about it, you're okay. This has nothing to do with you. All of the emails and all of the transcripts and all of this and this and this has proven that you had nothing to do with any of this crap. So you're safe." I cried for days, to the point where my roommate at the time was very worried about me and was afraid for my longevity. So called the ambulance. Ambulance came, picked me up. I went. I had assessments and at the Royal Ottawa.
Yep.
And the Royal Ottawa was kind enough to have my address, everything like this, and just say, "Look, you need therapy." And you and I were both raised in that generation of psychiatrists and psychologists are just quacks. The medication that they give you, they're just basically drug pushers and yada yada. And a lot of that was true in the 80s for sure. Like when they were getting kickbacks for pushing their shit, that's exactly what it was. But I, by virtue of that, had some significant substance abuse issues as I self-medicated through my own mental health problems. But when I hit absolute rock bottom and needed a 20-foot step ladder to climb all the way up to rock bottom, that's how low I had gotten. The hospital set me up with a therapist who specialized in men's health. So his focus was, if you got a penis, I want to talk to you, right? because my focus is the mental health, the physical health, and the well-being of men. That was his focus of study. And Dr. Hamdi was amazing. He was amazing. And I was probably a year and a half with this guy, maybe a little bit longer. And he actually took me through the whole barrage. He listened very well. He set me up with a therapist that did cognitive behavioral therapy. So finding better ways to address and get to a better outcome and stop falling back on repeating patterns that have driven your life into the toilet. He also said, listen, you know what? You smoke weed, you do ecstasy, you're a recovering alcoholic, you've been trying to self-medicate for years and doing this on your own. Where's that gotten you? You want to try my way a little bit for a while, and if it doesn't work out, great. If it does, then you're moving ahead. So from bedside, I agreed to go on a regimen of medications. Report back to him every single day about how I felt, what they were doing for me, et cetera, and slowly the medications were all whittled down until I was only on one. And I was on that medication for like 7 years or something like that. And he told me, you're going to be on this medication for a very finite period of time because eventually you're going to feel like it's not working anymore. And that's the point where it has made your body and brain work together in a much better way. And so you don't need it, and just wean yourself off of it. And you probably never have to go on a med again. So that saved my life, honestly. And at the end of the day, it gave me the tools, me personally, not anybody else, but gave me the tools to address the ups and downs and the pendulum swings that happen through life. And instead of going manic high and depressive low, I kind of sat somewhere in the middle, medicated or not, where I was able to rationalize and look at things and logically address the problems that I was facing. And that's what gave me the tools. And so, you know, for anybody out there who's having the challenges, who's listening to this, who's tuned in, if you need help, ask for help. Go to a doctor. If you don't like the first doctor you see, go find another one. But here's the thing. Facebook's not going to help you. WebMD is not going to help you. Drinking, drugs, working out, they can all be addictive, and they're not helping you. They're fulfilling a need at the moment. They're not giving you a long-term success pathway. So go find somebody who can give you that long-term success pathway.
I want to hitch my head there. I knew this was going to be big, just from my own personal experiences, and I want to share with the audience what those are. You talk about tools. This is what this show is, talking about reaching out and having the courage to reach out. I've had similar experiences with therapists, tried a couple, didn't land. We touched on that earlier around whether you have a personal trainer or anybody who's coming into your life to coach you in one respect or another, that trust, that environment has to be there for it to foster any type of success or growth. So I think in the last show, or I think it was a show before that with O'Brien, I touched on 17 is when I said I had enough. At 17, I attempted to check out. Fortunately, I wasn't successful. I was still a minor. I didn't end up at Royal Auto Hospital. I ended up at CHEO, right, Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario, where that was my first opportunity to step back from it all and have somebody else provide me different lenses and start down that path of bettering myself, getting out of the darkness, if you will.
Yep.
So
giving you tools.
Giving me tools. And then, did some work. And I know you personally, and I know what you just shared. You've done a lot of your own work with some of the tools. You've applied them. And then I hit my mid-30s, early 30s. And I needed to do some cleaning up. There was still some stuff in the attic that was weighing me down, that was pulling at me, And so I recognized, with being smarter and more of that self-care, I reached out to a therapist that was recommended to me, and her name is Monica, and she put me through an exercise that is indelible. And I think it was after our third session. So in the first session, she asked me, "Why are you here?" And I went, "Oh, well, I'm paying you up per hour, right? And I know the rate. So let's go Cole's notes on this." She paid me the compliment of saying, "You've obviously done a lot of work already."
Yeah.
And nobody ever said that to me. Nobody ever said that to me.
Yeah.
And carrying all this crap around, the dark, you talk about the bad voices, we'll get into that. And I said, "Thank you." I remember starting to cry, and I went, somebody has acknowledged that I have been struggling, but willing to do the work. So rounding the corner here, on our third session, she pulls out a chair from the side of the room. She puts it right in front of me. It's empty. There's nobody in that chair but that 17-year-old self of me.
Yeah.
She asked me to do this one, starting to choke up here, keep it together. This one exercise. She said, "Steph, if you could talk to your 17-year-old self back then, what you were going through when you were in that dark hole and you wanted it over, what would you say to yourself?" Well, holy katoot, Marco.
Yeah.
It rattled me. I struggled to. I knew the answer, but I struggled to find the voice to say it. And what I came up with, the best of what I came up with, is telling myself that it was okay to feel the way that I did. It was okay that that's the route that you wanted to take, and not carrying that guilt, because I felt ashamed. There was a lot of shame in being labeled as, "Oh, this person tried to end things," So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Well, I mean, similar. When I was 16, I guess it was, so around about the same time. When I was 16, I had a doctor tell me that I was, and I mean, I was again a child of divorce. My parents split when I was 12, and it was the whole situation of telling the kids that we're separating. We need some time apart, was done very much like a business meeting. My dad was he was a sales manager, yada yada. So, we all sat down at the kitchen, the round kitchen, and had the family meeting. Well, your mother and I, and I mean, it is. It's temporary, and it's just like I called it for what it is, and I said, "Hey, you and Mom are getting divorced." No. It's just like, anyway. So part of the deal with the split is that we went to therapy. Okay, myself, my younger brother, and we went to a child therapist, I think a CHIO, so ironically enough, but and it, I mean, they did at like 13, I think it was 13 or 14, I was told I am manic depressive, which in today's nomenclature is bipolar depressive and anxiety disorder. I've come to learn. So, and I mean, manic depressive, it just basically says you've got extraordinarily high highs, you've got extraordinarily low lows, you've got gray and so fast forward to my breakdown. I'm 30, just 31 years of age at this point in time. My father had just passed away. That's a whole other can of worms. I'm sitting down with the first psychiatrist, who was a Freudian, and was all about free association. Fell asleep on me a couple of times during our sessions, like passed out. I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm not fucking entertaining enough." right? And I walked out of his office. So I mean, it boded well, it boded well that I have a breakdown and get hooked up with Dr. Hamdi, and he said, yeah, textbook, you've got a mild bipolar anxiety disorder, but he said, there's something else there. Yeah, something else there. And he put me through a barrage of tests, like alien probes and, big things stuck in my eye and shit like that. Um, and he comes out at the other end after like 3 or 4 sessions where I was literally just writing stuff. Like I was doing these multiple choice and everything like that. And he just goes, yeah. So, he goes, in addition to sort of the anxiety disorder that you've got, which I already knew I had, he says, you've never been tested for ADD before. And I was like, ADD? Oh my God, that's an invention of modern medicine because the doctor doesn't want to say you're shitty parents and your kid's a brat. And he goes, no, it's actually a thing. And I was like, so what? And he was just like, yeah, like you've got ADD. And he goes, let me describe your house to you. And I mean, he'd never been to my house. We'd never talked about the inside of my apartment or anything like that. And the first thing that he touched on, he says, I'll bet you that in 2 rooms of your little apartment, you have Post-it notes stuck everywhere like wallpaper. And I was like, okay, yeah, check that box. And you probably get completely obsessive about something that you that you've got. And I was like, okay, so yeah, so I've got a bachelor apartment with 14 aquariums in it. Yeah, maybe, just, I started breeding fish because I had time on my hands. Stop judging me, right? Like it's just, and I mean, he's like, he goes, yeah, yes, my beloved wife here is just like, you're a saint. You're a saint. You've got your wings and your halo. But at any rate, yeah. So I mean, it's just it made sense to me the way that he explained how I conduct myself every single day, which gave me the opportunity to recognize it and start putting the tools together to deal with it. And I mean, the doctor said to me, he says, most people that are diagnosed with ADD, adult children, they get put on Ritalin. I was like, uh-huh. He goes, I'm not going to put you on Ritalin. And I went, why? And he said, well, we've already discussed your habit of sticking things up your nose that are not your fingers. So this is probably not the best solution for you. So we'll give you sort of more long-term tools to deal with it. Yeah, you're probably not wrong. I mean, I had a buddy of mine that called Ritalin poor man's Coke. So I was like, thanks for avoiding that one for me.
So to go a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole here, you
Yep.
made a note for me about making the bad go away, finding that belief in self. So
Yeah.
2-pronged here. So
Yep.
Great statement, very bold. So what is that like for you? We all have them, days, sometimes weeks, sometimes years, bad
Yep.
days where the voices have taken over. It's complete mutiny in the mind.
Yep.
And other voices louder than others, and how does that impact the belief in yourself? I hope I packaged that okay for you.
Yeah. So I mean, the voices. You know what? And it's funny. Sort of back at the beginning of this, our session here. You touched on something about belief in self. I learned a long time ago that the easiest person to lie to is yourself. I spent a good portion of my 20s and early 30s saying it's everybody else's fault. I'm not successful because they're jealous of me. I'm smarter than they are, and I'm their competition, so they're going to keep me down. No, I was an asshole, right? And I was lying to myself to make myself feel better. And the voices in my head were telling me that these people had it in for me, that they were plotting against me, that I had these delusions of persecution of all of these. So, and I believed them. I believed them because it was easier to believe that they had it in for me and I wasn't working hard enough on me to make them not have it in for me anymore. Right?
Wow.
So silencing the voices in my head, I had to stop the negativity. The negativity towards other people and the negativity inwardly. You're a failure. You're not good looking enough. You know, you don't work hard enough. You just all of this shit that was going on in my head. I had to take those voices and tell them to fucking shut up. Just be quiet. I don't want to hear it. Say something constructive. Give me a path. Give me a way around the problem. But stop telling me that I'm a failure.
Whew. Taking an exhale here. So that's what I call re-recording over old tapes.
Oh, fuck.
Right? Re-recording over old tapes. I mean, it's amazing.
So many playlists just need to die.
Ever.
Yeah.
They're there forever in the library.
Yeah.
So I'm curious because I struggled in all these areas, and I've, you know, tinkered and whatever, done what I could to get above the noise in my own head. So for you to nudge the river in a more favorable direction away from that negativity, what things did you start to leverage to get away and distance yourself more and more and more from that negative talk?
I learned to laugh at my own absurdity. Holy shit, man. A sense of humor will, if you can find the humor in the darkest situation in your life, if you can find something that'll make you laugh through that, you will get through. You will get through. For me, yeah, I don't know if you remember SNL way back in the day, Paul Smalley.
Yes.
I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and gosh darn it, people like me. Right? And I mean, like the most absurd caricature of a person you could possibly ever see. And honestly, if and it's a character. I mean, it's a fucking character on sketch comedy, but there's a lot of real world application to that. If this absurd caricature of a person can find a way to look at any situation and find the positive, then why the hell am I desperately expending all of my energy to try and find that one negative nugget that I can hold on to when so much around me is positive? And I'll be honest with you, like it you know, shout out to Serena, my wife, my best friend, my rock. It wasn't really until I met Serena that I was given the latitude to really look for the positive in life. I mean, she's like fucking Snow White, dude. Honestly,
I've met her. Yeah, it's a good likeness there.
Yeah, you know, like, I mean, I'm not even kidding. Like today, present day, my wife will wake up in the morning, feed our zoo of animals in the house. Okay, dog, 2 cats, guinea pig. So feed the zoo in the house, And then she proceeds to go outside to feed the 30 to 45 crows that have taken up residence near our backyard. They've got the one guy with the email that as soon as she walks out onto the balcony, rah! And it's like it's like a Hitchcock show, and they all fly in, and she brings the Chihuahua downstairs, and she drops the Chihuahua, and yeah, you know, she's, our wives are saints. They put up with us, you know.
So no, it's a perfect moment of this all kind of going, right?
Yeah.
To look at what you shared around the negative thoughts and changing the viewfinder is, I always related it to, for me, is not defaulting to finding fault. And that was always my immediate, somebody's out after me, somebody's there to hurt me, somebody's going to take away what is mine, yada, 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 yada. So I always defaulted to finding fault.
Yep.
And I think that, you know, I thought in my mind that I was being smart because of the kind of the childhood that I had, that I was protecting myself. That if I'm happy, that's a dangerous place to be, because somebody's going to come along and kick that stool from underneath my ass and prove me.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing though. Like we're trained from a very it's like we train a dog, right? You got a dog, I got a dog. Yeah. You don't want the dog to piss on the floor. You train that dog to not piss on the floor. You train the dog to scratch at the back door to go outside. And the dog gets a treat when they're a puppy for going outside and peeing outside. So you give them a little crunch of the milk bone or whatever. And they're like, oh, you know what? I got a milk bone. Oh, that means if I pee outside, I'm a good boy. I want to be a good boy. So we are constantly raised to be a good boy or girl, whatever the case may be. And so we are trained to always look for the yes trigger in everybody. So we want to please. We always want to get that yes trigger. We always want to get that positive reinforcement. We always want to get, well, you know what? You've done sales. I've done sales. What is the first thing they teach you in sales? Not looking for the yes trigger.
You look for the nose because you're closer to
Look for the nose. Have all of the answers ready, like a loaded 44 Magnum, for all of the things they're going to say no to. So despite the fact that we're trained for positive reinforcement, we're really being trained to look for the negativity in everything, every person, every situation, everything, right? And I mean, I'll be quite honest with you. You know, and I mean, we can open up the COVID can of worms right now. Okay, the last year and a half has been a societal exercise in finding everybody desperately clinging to the negative. Like, how much of the news cycle is consumed with nurses striking, COVID deniers breaking up Remembrance Day ceremonies, picket lines for people who don't want to take an injection, yada, 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 yada. And then you get this little teeny tiny blurb of, you know, a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old brother spent the year, spent the last year in COVID running a little home-based business, and they're donating all of the money that they've earned to hospice care for senior citizens who contracted the virus and you know, want their last moments to actually be with their families, right? Yeah. 30 seconds, boom. Oh, and here's your feel-good moment. You know, oh, and let's get back to, the Canucks lost 7-4 after having a 2-0 lead last night. You know, you were happy for a second, but let's tear that Band-Aid right off, right? So it's unfortunate, but we have this kind of subconscious need to always look for the negative because it prepares us for when people say no, or when people say not good enough, or when people say work harder. We know it's coming. So psychologically, we're preparing ourselves for that. Instead of going, fuck it, you know what? I worked my ass off. I'm doing really well. I'm happy as a pig in slop. You know, And I didn't know what fire meant until last week, and I was just like, yeah, I mean, fuck all y'all.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm
you
a
know,
staunch fan of everything you're saying.
like, and it's
Um,
just, you know, it's one of those things where it's just like, I just screw, like, I'm sorry that you're having a shitty day today,
yeah.
but don't make my day shitty so you can have a friend in shittiness. Listen to why I'm happy, or feed off of my positivity and make your shitty day just a notch better.
Oh, Marco, fucking love you for that piece when you package that last piece. And let me tell you, we're going to have you back on the show with because I can get up to 10 people on this platform. So that may be a lot of fun. We could talk about
Yeah.
a little deeper on those things. But it's a perfect segue into our next, theme. Now, you made mention of your lovely wife, Snow White, Serena. Now, I've had the great pleasure of spending a lot of time around your beautiful spouse, and you touched on a couple of things there that I hold true, at least in my experience of being around her, is she has a very soothing and calming and grounding demeanor.
Oh my God.
Very
Like a llama in a herd of horses. It's amazing. She's fantastic.
That's exactly what I was gonna say.
She's like that one little fluffy cloud in an otherwise blue sky. She's comfortable, like the softest. It's like, honestly, my wife is an angel, and she is and it, you know what? Here's the thing. Like, we've all got our demons, and Serena's no different. But I've never met anybody that embodies the find good in everything more than Serena.
Mm.
Right? And it's infectious. It really is.
Yeah.
Like, being around her, you want to be one of the seven dwarfs, right?
I think
Like,
I'm one
you're
of them.
just, you know, because I mean, she's had her share of shit in her professional life and her personal life, and everything like that, and yet, no matter what,
So
she comes back and finds something positive in it. So go ahead.
perfect question for you then. When
Yes.
we've highlighted some really powerful attributes about Serena, right?
Yes.
Your wife.
Yeah.
So we're backpedaling a little bit to earlier in the show, and you meet Serena for the first time. You have your own defaults, and you're fighting the negativity beast, and you're like, nope, replace it with a good thought, replace it with a positive thought. Did you ever once look at Serena and go, how do you do that? How do you do that? Being so positive, finding the good in everything, and not defaulting to negative, even when the poop hits.
No, you want to you want so. No, that was not one of my questions with Serena, Mike, because I accepted it. Like, it's like, it's raining outside. This floor is whatever. It's just a given. Like, Serena's going to look for the positive in things. That's how she gets through it. My resounding question for years, and it almost ended our relationship early. Because I've had time to sort of analyze it back. Was, why do you stay with me? Like, I mean, I am so flawed. I'm a mess. I don't have a pot to piss in. You're wickedly successful. Like, you've got money. You've got this beautiful car. You got, and I am just this a struggling hairstylist, wannabe DJ in a brand new city that's just got all of these fucking issues. Why are you here? Like, honestly, you should be. There's so much better for you out there. And her answer was, "You're my Prince Charming." I did the one thing. I did the one thing for Serena that I guess, escaped other people in her life, other romantic relationships in her life. I gave her value. I valued her openness and her positivity and and I accepted everything about that. I truly value her as a human being,
Mm.
with flaws and great things. But I value her, which I think was lost on some other people. And thank God, like, y'all missed out. You know.
Yeah. So, did it take you a while to find confidence in that you were truly her Prince Charming, and as is everything all in? You know, because you get told thing. I have my own stuff. Remember, the shows is about you, right? And I'm just here to compliment and layer on some of the things. Did it take time to
Yeah.
find confidence in that statement from her?
Look, I almost blew it. I almost blew it. I was going through my own issues, and I pulled back really hard. And she was all in, like both feet. She was this. I love this guy. I love you. I love you. I love you. Very early, very quick. Because clearly, I mean,
Yeah, that's why you're on the show.
so, but I mean, I was having a lot of confidence issues, and yeah, I almost blew it. And I had a dream one night, or I was having a nap in the middle of the day. I can't remember exactly which, but I had this dream that I broke up with her, and that she blocked me everywhere. No communication available. I couldn't explain myself. I couldn't anything. That was it.
Ghosted.
Completely cut off. Completely cut off. There was no way I was getting my fix. And I was devastated. I was devastated. And I was and in the dreamscape, I was going through a life where I would walk past places and I would see her with somebody else. Or I would walk past places and I would remember the good time that we had being there and knew that that was never going to happen again. Or I would just want somebody that I could trust to pick up the phone and talk to.
That's my mom, Marco. Pay no attention.
I remember Mom from last week. Thanks, Mom.
Hi, Mom.
It was devastating for me. It was devastating, and I literally that was the day I decided I was going to marry her.
Nice.
That I was just like, you know what, shit or get off the pot, dude. Like, this is, you are. This is. She is the best for you.
Mm.
There is nothing better. There's no step up. There's no. This is the person that, and I want to say blindly, but accepts you for who you are. You've never had this in your life,
Mm-hmm.
ever. So holy shit, lock that down.
So you coached yourself up and said, "Hey, man, should have got off the pot. You know what you have, and you want to hitch your wagon to that too." So I wanted to share a little bit around that. That piece you said, yeah, around making that decision or accepting you for everything that you are. I call that the respect part. And follow me on this. And you can, again, this show is all about, you can take it or leave it. I've always said you can't love somebody without respecting them. It just doesn't happen. I've seen a lot of relationships in every capacity, and they say they love that person, but they act very differently. The level of respect isn't there. And I always think to myself, I go, you can't say you love somebody without respecting them. And that's just my take. That's just my take on it, because again, there's situations that I've seen and I witnessed, or even, that I've experienced that, okay, you tell me you love me, but your actions say quite the opposite.
So, I mean, this is, I've dated a lot of flawed women in my life, and they all assessed me as a fixer-upper opportunity.
Hmm.
I was basically an East Van teardown. So for a lot of my relationships,
Yeah.
and it it was funny. Like, I mean, I talked to Serena and I said, "What would you change about me?" She said, "Nothing." What?
Yeah, you weren't
What
expecting that answer, right? You were expecting maybe a few things on the laundry list that can potentially be there.
Oh, yeah, yeah. One or two things.
So this is a perfect time, Marco. You set things up. You make this very easy,
Yeah,
which doesn't surprise me at all. So one of the things you wanted to talk about was life partners and keeping
yep,
that partnership healthy. Yeah, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, there's no formula to it, but there's certain little there's certain, and for lack of better terms, milestones that you achieve for um, keeping relationships healthy. Um, Number one is comfort. Um, be comfortable in the relationship. Like, just be comfortable. Like, know that relationships, a good, healthy, strong relationship is a relationship that you're comfortable in knowing that the change in that relationship is going to be very incremental, and the day to day is going to be very boring, right?
Okay.
Um, Relationships aren't Instagram posts. Okay? Relationships aren't social media posts. Relationships are getting up, scratching your nuts, making a cup of coffee, smelling your own breath, and just going, "Good fucking Lord, how do you sleep with me at night?" Um, and still having that person kiss you in the morning. Relationships are, "Oh shit, I got to clean out the cat litter. I should probably get on that." Relationships are, is it my turn to go to the grocery store today, or is it my turn to take the garbage out today? Or, uh, you know, um, I'm just going to go sweep off the balcony now. And relationships are, I'm going downstairs to my office to work on a 3D animation package for the next like 7 or 8 hours. I'll yell at you from the basement, right? Those are relationships. Fuck, that's boring. I mean, if you are living oh, wait a minute, let me give you the classic Instagram post. If you're living that all the time, I'm guiding my man or my woman to you know, it's that's not it. It's not it. It's not high gloss and fancy Lamborghini bullshit. That's not relationships, right? That's social media. That's the Kardashians. Okay. Um,
I knew I could count on you, Marco, for the candor and the color and the animation. I love it. So,
yeah.
what kind of? So, I love that when people are interactive and they throw their comments. That's what these on the cusp episodes are about. So, yes, agreed. Especially when you're spending a certain amount of time with someone, there's the everyday stuff. There's the stuff that you got to pick up and get done, and and job, hold down the fort, all the good stuff. Now, are there things, certain activities that you do within your relationship to inspire health and that wellness? I mean, being comfortable. Now, let before while you're thinking about that, you probably already have the answer. Is I really liked what you said about being comfortable. Now, people in the viewing audience, I'm just playing devil's advocate, may think, well, if you're comfortable, then that means you're just basically sitting like a slob on your couch. This is just metaphorically speaking, your relationship, and you just don't try anymore. Now, what you shared and the way I take it is the comfort that you're both comfortable with who you are and your differences and whatever's going on in your day. You're not always in the pocket, but you're comfortable. Not sure if I got that right, but that's for me is very important that
Yeah,
I'm
no,
comfortable with the person who is there present in my life.
100%. But I mean, what, comfort.
Yeah, I did too, Roger. This is Marco starting to be unbridled. Let me tell you, that's why I love the guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's just comfort, like comfort in a relationship. Like, you remember when you first start dating, right? You make your bed in your apartment, you clean up and you burn the incense and you do all of that stuff and you make sure that's all done and is shaved and manscaped and all of that great thing. And, you're just like, I'm going to wax that shit. Like, it just, you, you are putting on the Instagram facade for who you are as a person. Then you get into a relationship, and the relationship's a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. And that Instagram facade was gone in 6 months, right? Like that filtered crap is gone after 6 months. You end up putting less time into outward appearances and more time into stressing about work, stressing about, da 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 da. So being comfortable for me in a relationship is being comfortable in looking at the person that you're in a relationship with and saying, I don't feel good today.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why. I know it's not you. 100% me. I don't feel good today. Something up here or something in here. I need a little time. And that person going, take all the time you need. That's comfort. That's comfort, and that's trust.
Thanks for that, Mark. You did a better job than I did. You provided exactly the right example of what I mean about being comfortable, right? And like I said, not being quite always in the pocket and having days, and I've had those days where I'm like, it's dark, I'm like, it's not good. So there you go. Mom's putting up another one. So is it a lot of work?
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Enough said on that.
But I mean, I was living with a girl. I was living with a girl for 3.5 years back in Ottawa. And we were like little raver people. I had some pretty significant drug issues. She had some pretty significant drug issues. We were both sort of doing questionable work. Well, I mean, questionable. Like, I don't give a shit what you do for a job as long as you pay your taxes and whatever. But she had the kind of job that would create tension in most relationships. At the same time, she was exceptionally abusive, physically, mentally, emotionally abusive. Probably because of her own shortcomings, and it was just projected at everybody else, but primarily me. And I had fooled myself into thinking that I deserved that. I was such a failure and I was so bad. I deserve this. I deserve to be hit with a phone. I deserve to have things thrown at me. I deserve to be cheated on. I deserve to, I am such a flawed and failed person. This is what I deserve. Fast forward into my current relationship. I deserve to be happy. I deserve to be respected. I deserve to be wanted. I deserve the honesty from a person who will look me square in the face and say, you fucked up. I deserve all of that. These are all things that I have earned in my life. And it all, I mean, you can sum it up as respect, but I think it goes beyond respect. I think it goes into uh, mutual compassionate understanding, right?
100%. And stark contrast of where you started and where you are now, in the sense of what you felt you deserved based on how you felt about yourself, how you
Yeah.
viewed yourself. And I have fought through those feelings most of my life.
Yep.
I always measured my self-worth and my value by what I did for everybody else. I would drop everything that was important to me, that made me happy, to make everybody else happy.
Yep.
I'd run off and just do what it is that that person needed me to do. And I lost myself in that. And that was a huge hole in my life, because I never felt that I was deserving of the things that you've talked about. And it's finding your way to that honest little point inside of your soul that says that you are worth it. And then you start aligning your thinking and your feelings and the people that you want to have in your life with that quality. So that was really, really good how you presented that. So there's one more thing on your list, because there's so many things that are absolutely exceptional about you, Mr. Renna.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
And it's easy. The compliment's easy because you've earned it. This might be a fun banter. How scary is the new you in your 40s and beyond?
Oh.
So that piqued my curiosity. Being 49, and maybe some of the people on this show would like to know a little bit more about that.
So, you know, people pivot for two reasons. People, professionally, personally, they pivot for two reasons. Either they can afford to, financially, whatever they can afford to, or B, out of necessity. So I fall under the latter rather than the former. And I mean, you know, when you and I first met, you know, I was kind of throwing it all against the wall, and you know, had gone down the deep dark hole of securing a patent for a putter that I designed. PSA, kids, don't go down the patent route. Just keep your damn ideas to yourself. Nobody wants to hear them anymore. Like, you know, and it just like honestly, it you know, so I was doing that, and then you know, I got involved in the medical cannabis industry. That was just stupid. You know, I got involved. I was desperate. I was desperate to try and find a direction that would give me the ability to support my family. Here's the problem. Being the arrogant shit that I was, I needed this to be on my terms. Okay? I'm going to do things on my terms. It doesn't work that way. Because when I learned very quickly that when you're going to people for investment, for seed capital, no pun intended in the cannabis industry, but seed capital. You know, when you're going to people with your hat in your hand, looking for support, it's not on your terms; it's on theirs, right? They want their damn money back, right?
Yeah.
And they want their investment back. Nobody's going to give you $150,000, $200,000, $1 million because you've got a great smile and Steph Saint Laurent thinks you're awesome, right? So, in how scary is it to pivot? I've had 3 careers in my 40s. How scary is it to pivot? And every time you're starting from square one, and that's fucking terrifying, bud. Terrifying. Because you're running out of time. I mean, you're running out of a perception of time. Like, I want to be retired when I'm 65. I don't want to be putting in 70-hour weeks when I'm 70,
Yeah.
right? I want to know that, I can take it. I've never been to Hawaii. I want to go to Hawaii. I want to go to Hawaii when I'm young enough to enjoy it, right? So
Yeah.
I had to come to terms with other people's terms. And when I made peace with that as smart and cool and creative and all of that crap that I felt I was, I'm not the one signing my own paycheck,
Mm-hmm.
and I
So,
probably never will be. So,
question for you,
yeah,
because I'll reciprocate on what you're saying, because I've been through the same thing in the last 6-7 years about rebranding yourself and having to pivot, and the necessity of pivoting, and there's things to pay for. You got to live, right? Is when those pivots had to happen, because it's a must.
Yep.
Was there a lot of stress and anxiety and a lack of confidence chasing a new path when you had to pivot, or were you very comfortable with that new challenge and that new direction?
I mean, it sort of depends on which pivot. I'll take my most successful pivot at this. Well, successful pivoting into the film industry. So popcorn, or your little popcorn there, was an actor. And I mean, it still is. But so Serena and I were both thrust into the film industry by virtue of being the chaperone parents on set. And being resourceful enough that we knew that we needed to learn about the industry in order to best support our daughter, who became wildly successful at 3, right? I mean, wildly successful. She had a great agent. That agent, found her lots and lots of work, and she was cute as a button. She looked like Shirley Temple. She was incredibly gregarious and extroverted and all of that good stuff. So she was the new it thing in the Vancouver film industry. So we were on set quite a bit. And the funny thing is that every time I was on set, somebody was always coming up to me like, "Where's your lockup? Where's your headset? Who the hell do you report to?" Like this. And I'm just kind of like,
do you work here? No.
Yeah, where are you supposed to be? Why are you at Crafty right now? Like, just yelling at me. And I'm just kind of looking at him going, I'm getting snacks for myself and my daughter over there. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm really sorry. Hey, no, it's all good, man. What's your name? No names. Like cockroaches when the lights go on, right? As soon as they get caught giving shit to an actor's parent, wow. I'm freaking Steven Spielberg all of a sudden. The stirs start flying, right? So I was on I was chaperoning, or I was dad on set. I didn't really have to chaperone. I mean, the kid's like she's 12 going on 35 sometimes. Well, she is now, but I mean, at the time, I think she was 9, and we were on set, and by virtue of her work, I got to meet a lot of really amazing people, and they always stuck us in the director producers tents. So I was in there one day, and I was chatting with one of the executive producers, and I was like, yeah, that's just over at Crafty, and this guy thought that I was, didn't have my headset, and where was my lockup? And I said, it's kind of funny. I said, maybe I should get into this business. And he goes, oh no, you totally should. And he goes, you got a great head for this. And I was like, yeah, dude, but I mean, I'm like this many years old and going back to film school. Film school. He goes, what a waste of money. And he goes, you're going to learn more actually being on a film set than you ever will in film school. His words. So if anybody from film schools are listening to this, you do great work. Keep those tuition dollars rolling in. So it Yeah, so he said, and I said, well, okay, so how do I get in? And he says, well, try and find a way that you can be a production assistant. I said, oh, what does a production assistant do? And he says, well, you see that guy that's cleaning up the garbage cans over there? That's a production assistant. I went, oh, okay. And he goes, well, here's the thing. Most production assistants will become production managers. And by starting at the absolute bottom and slowly working your way up through the ranks, as a production manager, you'll walk on set and go, costing me money, making me money, making me money, making me money. Replace the costing me monies now, right? You'll be able to walk onto a set and know if things are working right, because you've spent years making things work right, or at the very least learning. On top of that, you also get the opportunity to network and meet people, et cetera, et cetera. So, did I confidently pivot into this? I knew what kind of a shitstorm I was getting myself into. I knew how crappy the work was. I knew that it was backbreaking long days. I knew I wasn't going to get treated the same way as I would at being Lena's dad on set. And I jumped in.
It is part of that, Marco. Maybe I saw it wrong through Facebook. Are you also teaching yourself or going to school? I think there's some modeling.
Yeah. No,
yeah. So
I am. I'm a 50-year-old man, and carrying 80-pound tents for 15 hours a day sucks. I don't feel particularly intellectually challenged jumping up and down in mini bins, getting the garbages to go down a little bit further so they can get one extra day out of the mini bin before they have to haul it out of there.
Wow.
So in coming into the film industry with a plan, I was always very tuned in to meeting the people that were cool people on set, and it typically was that I was gravitating towards the directors of photography, the gaffers who were sort of in charge of the lighting and everything like that, and the special effects guys and the visual effects guys. Those were kind of my peeps, right? So COVID hit. I was working on a couple of shows. COVID hit. Everything shut down. And so I had like 4.5 months, 5 months of just like literally sitting on my thumbs, trying to figure out what was going to happen. Because I mean, if this thing carried on for too long, it was going to devastate BC film. LA, Atlanta, New York would circle the wagons and try and get as much in there as possible, because I'll keep that opinion to myself. But at any rate, they will they'll circle the wagons, and they will internalize as much of the production as they possibly can, and we'll be going through another Save BC Film campaign, right? So I watched a video, the making of The Mandalorian, and I was like, holy shit, that's what I want to do, that's what I want to do, that's what I want to do, right? They were showcasing these gigantic volumetric stages that had horseshoe LED panels and an LED ceiling that projected 6K video that was connected to a camera through various sensors all the way around. So as the camera moves, the background moves with it. And all of that background is all done in CGI, right? So when you're watching The Mandalorian, you're like, oh my God, where did they film that? Where did they film that? In LA. And the artists that made the background are in New Zealand, and the guys that are doing the visual effects for the sandstorms and the laser shots are in London. And the people that are doing the texturing and the animating are in Montreal. And I literally had a mental orgasm.
So with that, glad that you did. You go to school, that kind of thing?
Who can afford school these days? My frat boy days are over, my friend. No, I was, I obviously, I mean, like, you go to a visual effects school and it's going to cost you like 60 grand for 18 months.
Yeah, yeah.
Bloody expensive. I was born pretty. I was not born rich.
Well, my mom thinks so anyway.
So I started taking online courses. I went to Udemy, and you know, but the thing is I also leaned upon the people that I knew in the industry. So I reached out to them through COVID and the lockdowns, and I said, hey, listen, if I wanted to do this, what do I need to know? Right?
Yeah.
And they were like, well, here's the top 5 pieces of software that are being used to drive those things and what people are doing, et cetera, et cetera. Go.
So right? You're self-teaching yourself, in other words, if I hear you correctly?
Yeah. I'm doing, like, I mean, I'll pick up a course that's, you know, like 60 hours of course time.
Yeah.
Go through and you learn what buttons to push and whatever, and you put your own little creative twist on it, and you do all of that good stuff, and you learn, and you put a portfolio together so you can send that out to people and say, look, I know what buttons to push.
Very, very cool. So you're always building yourself for that next. The reason why I ask, and this is because I appreciate you talking about the pivoting and having to essentially rebrand, and I asked you if there was a, you know, what was your confidence level in going in a whole new direction? Because it's nice to hear other people who have gone through the same thing. So, you know, you met me as a strength and conditioning coach, a subject matter expert. The back of my hand, you could put me in Wembley Stadium in front of 85,000 people, and you say, hey, Steph, talk about biomechanics and fitness and programming and periodization. No problem.
Yep.
Right? Heart rate probably wouldn't even go up.
Yep.
So then when some of my clients learned that I was moving into, when we talked in the green room, and they moved into a national sales role in the credit union space, selling insurance and financial technologies, they all went, say again?
Wow, that alien probe really dented it.
Yeah, I don't see the link. I don't see, and we talked about it in the green room about transferable skills, right?
Yeah.
Maybe another show. So people asked me, the question they asked me was the same one. I say, like, aren't you terrified, like scared, and you know nothing about the industry? I go, 100% I'm terrified, 100% I'm scared. But some of the themes we touched on here is I believe enough in my abilities through the work that I have done, and I've done a lot of different things, that I will be able to wrap my arms around that too. And like you, and I know that part of your DNA is you're not afraid to ask questions, Marco. You're that guy who's like, but
Mysticata.
Those are dating themselves, which is perfect. And that's one thing that why your growth will always be there for yourself, because you'll push yourself to the front of the line to ask the question to get you want. I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I ask a lot of questions. I ask hard because I want to know. So I just wanted to share that, because I went from that, and now I'm in the construction industry as an occupational health and safety manager.
Awesome.
A very big organization, and I'm in school. That's why I asked you about if you were in school. I'm going to BCIT part-time to earn a certificate in occupational health and safety. So that's 49. And I was looking to fit that into my life on top of everything else. I didn't know if I had the bandwidth for it, Marco. I just really did.
Dude, like, listen, everybody's got the bandwidth for it. But you've got to have, you have to, I mean, here's the thing. This is where I do. That's why I'm such a good husband. That is exactly why I'm such a good husband. I read the maps and the instruction manuals. Steph's mind went somewhere else entirely, but that's okay. So here's the thing, right? Like, as an adult learner, as somebody, as you know, rebranding yourself in your 40s and beyond. Look, if you're going to rebrand yourself into a technology industry, you are rebranding yourself and competing with 20-somethings that A, don't give a shit, B, have zero loyalty to the companies that they're working for, and D, or C, are technology natives. They grew up with an iPhone in their hand. My daughter got an iPhone last year, right?
Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, all of this other bullshit, TikTok, blah, 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 blah. It is all, this is embedded in their DNA. So if you're going to go out there, it's funny, like as a communications guy in marketing, I was doing jobs where they're like, well, you got to come up with a new viral sensation. And it's like, well, that's not how it works. Like, first of all, I'll write it, and if people thinks it's cool, then it's going to go viral. But I can't just, like, it's not like herpes, man. Like, it's not, you don't, it's not a virus until people are interested in it. And I got news for you. The shit that you're getting me to write, nobody's fucking interested in unless they're in this little teeny tiny hole that you've got me aiming at. I worked for a company that had one product that did two things. And I was writing between 1,000 and 2,500 words a week for a year.
Ooh, ow.
I said, hey,
creative blocks?
Great idea. But I had a manager who's standing behind me saying, we need to be thought leaders in this. And I was just like, thought leaders on what? Like my whole thing was, okay, thought leader is the new marketing speak for come up with a TED Talk that doesn't cost you $1,400 in tickets to go and watch. There's a thought leader. But you got to have an original thought. I'm all for people being thought leaders. You can be a thought leader. You can be a thought leader. You can be a thought leader. But make it fucking original. Like, think outside of the box. You want to lead? You're going to be the first one running into the crowd, and you're going to get the slings and arrows. Everybody else is a thought follower.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, I came up with an idea. I said, hey, this product could also do this, and we could market it this way, and we could show that we're innovating and thinking outside the box with what it is that this product does. Wait a second. Well, that's thought leadership.
Yeah.
You say something that nobody else has thought of, that's thought leadership. Well, wait a second. This is the compartmentalized box we want you to be writing things in. Oh, for fuck's sakes. Seriously?
Love you, Marco. So rounding the corner in our time here. And I already have a great idea for another show down the road, which would involve a few people, including yourself. The well is deep and broad on the human condition, as you can tell. If you could leave our viewing audience, and we touched on a lot of stuff, and you've coined exactly what this show is about, is really candid. I don't know any more genuine people than you. Why I love you so much, because you're a take it or leave it kind of guy too. You're not looking to fit into everybody's box, and I'm the same way. I think if you can't be open and honest, and you've basically peeled that onion very, very well in the show, and I have an immense amount of respect for how honest you are about yourself. I always learn something from you, Marco. It's very humbling. If you could leave one or two important things that you think are important as far as tools and fuel for the people who are watching this, and maybe will take the time to watch it, what would you want to wrap up the show with?
I think, you know what? You talk about honesty a lot. So be honest with yourself. 100%. Be honest with yourself. That's number one. I think when we as an individual stop lying to the reflection in the mirror, you can achieve great things because you're honest with you're honest with your strengths, you're honest with your limitations, you're honest with yourself, and don't be afraid to go, you know what? I'm here, and this is as good as it's going to get for me, so I should be very comfortable in this. Like, I'm doing all right, right? That would be tidbit number one. Be honest with yourself. Tidbit number two is don't be afraid to fail.
Mhm.
There's this quip that's going around Facebook right now that says you fail because you try and you learn from your failures or some shit like that. I don't know, whatever. It all belongs in a fucking mug anyway. But the thing is, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to fail. Like, go out there and try something. Like, you want to paint a painting. You're not going to be Michelangelo. Paint a fucking painting. It could be terrible. Who cares? You did it, right? I got 2 guitars sitting back here that eventually I'm going to learn to play.
It's funny, I've got mine downstairs too that I've had for a year and a half.
Yeah, my brother was like, yeah, you know what? I bought this guitar from a buddy of mine. It's a Les Paul. This is beautiful. He's like, I bought this from a buddy of mine, but I picked it up and I tried to play it like 2 or 3 times, and fuck it, it's hard work. I'm working on a real estate career. Here, have a guitar. Happy 50th birthday, right?
And you just nailed it on the head to put that last one in the coffin. Is tidbit number 1, which is great, which is I'm an ardent fan of, is be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
And through that as a medium, right, of being open to new things and trying new things, and
Yep.
you are going to fail, and that's another big theme here about On the Cusp, right? It's that nudge you've been dying for. Pick up some tools, apply them, use them. They're just in your toolbox, and you're blaming the world for shit not going your way.
Yeah,
you're right. We want to provide some hows and how-tos. So
yeah, listen, you want to know something? At the end of the day, it's nobody else's fault but yours. Like, I don't give a shit how many times I pointed the fingers at people, whether it was in my DJing career or computer career or marketing career or hairstyling career. Oh, it's his fault. He's jealous. I'm just, no, you're an asshole. Like, the reason why you're not successful, Marco, is because you pick all of the wrong times to show how much of an asshole you are. Right? And it's so, look, in being honest with yourself, there's a world out there that is going to lie to you every damn day of your life. Don't be part of that world. Be honest with yourself. And if you're honest with yourself, you can move yourself forward. At the same time, the tools, mental health. Oh my God. If you need help, ask for it. If you need help, seek it out and find it. If you don't have one single person in your life that you can trust to talk to, go find a doctor, because they don't know you and they don't give a shit. Their job is there to listen and help. Get your mental health in order.
That's a perfect way to top the show off, especially on that note. That I'm a big believer in that with my own journey, my own struggles. Marco Renna, thank you so much for being part of this journey with me, and making a dream come true. You're a gem. It's been a long time, but it's literally just jumping back in. We will do this again. We're going to do it again, and we're going to start getting some groups together and have a good old-fashioned powwow about some stuff that we all care very deeply about. So thank you so much.
No, thank you for thinking of me even interesting. I appreciate that. That's it's a nice big thank you for thinking that other people would find me even mildly entertaining. And I sincerely hope I didn't embarrass my wife.
And handsome too.
Oh, handsome. Well, yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you for all of you that tuned in and watched, along the way. It's easy to burn 2 hours. That just means that there's so much to say, and it's all good. It's all good. Till next time, On the Cusp. Be good, be safe, and self-care. Take care.
Thanks, guys.